Good morning, everyone, and welcome to Activities for People Living at Home with Dementia. My name is Gail Snyder. I'm the Executive Director for Dementia Friendly Fort Worth. We are proud to offer these programs with funding from the Area Agency on Aging and United Way of Tarrant County. These programs are recorded and are made available for future use through a YouTube channel. And today, back with us for our Wednesday Artful Moments program is Peggy Spear, and she will be sharing with us art from Micah Mikus.
Hello, friends.
Hello.
Hello.
Good morning. Hi.
Good morning.
Okay. Are we seeing it?
Yes.
Eleanor Mikus.
So it's funny. Forever, we've all at the museum been saying Eleanor Mikus. And one of the curators met her daughter just about a month ago, and it's Mikus. So everyone's like trying to adjust how to say it. And we're all still saying Mikus, but it's Mikus. So Mikus, we all know who you're talking about. But we were all surprised. So. All right, so today, this is an exhibition. We're gonna look closely at an exhibition that's currently on view in our museum. But I will say this is a really hard exhibition to show on the computer. So bear with me. If you have any questions, just go ahead and ask, because it's really hard to see some of the beautiful nuancing and detail that she has included in her works. So with that in mind, let's go ahead. This is Eleanor Mikus. See, I'm still doing it.
Mikus.
Yeah, and so she's from Detroit, and she went to school in New York. She went to school at the University of Denver, that's where I went to school. So I didn't know that she went there, which was a really cool discovery when we were learning about this artist. And she kind of qualified, and she didn't qualify her or categorize herself as an abstract artist, but her work is very abstract. So she was doing a lot of her heavy work in the 50s, 60s, 70s that she was always making. She was teaching. And so the exhibition, or this is an example of her painting, one of her paintings. So see what I'm saying? It's kind of hard to see.
So far away.
But this is acrylic on wood. And so she started off as a painter, and she was really, really, really interested in the process, not the product of what she would make. So this exhibition is called Meditations, and it's not so much, it wasn't the intent of us to view these artworks and meditate. It was while she was creating these artworks, it was almost a meditative process for her. And so I feel like with just world going on right now with the election, we just need a little moment to kind of maybe take a step back and meditate and just see the beauty in the simplicity of some of the things that her artwork has. So what do we see in this artwork? Can you see some of the differentiations that she was able to capture in this acrylic painting?
Well, so I see some white lines.
White lines, yes.
Some lines, some
Some
white.
lines, dark and white.
Some white lines here.
It looks to me like those lines are actually different levels of the texture. So it's
Very good, Gail.
a line with paint, but it's a variation in the surface.
Yes.
Yes, Gail, that is great, and good on you for picking that up through the computer screen. So that's
I could paint like that.
say that again.
I could paint like that.
Then why aren't you?
That's why it's me.
You know, get on out there and do it then. So what she would do is, in this particular work, in several works like it, she would use pieces of wood or masonite and glue them to, like a back piece of wood, and she would sand it down and then paint it back up, and then sand it down and paint it back up. And this would go on and on and on until she felt it had reached the texture difference that she wanted. So you can see that, like Gail said, exactly right. You can see here, that line, it is painted white, but it's not a painted line. It's just the paint the variation in levels and the way the light's hitting it is creating that line,
see.
but it's all the same
That's
color.
pretty creative.
So,
So when you say that's not paint, is that some wood grain?
no, so it's paint on top, but it's all the same color paint. So she didn't use a brighter white to paint that line. It's just the way the light is actually hitting it because of the different depths.
Okay, got it.
This is a
So
stuff.
she was really interested in this process. This is where she would get into that kind of meditative state where she would sand down, and she was really interested in the what was beneath the surface. So while the surface is really beautiful, there were many layers to create that surface, and so that's what she was thinking about with this repetitive sanding and building.
You don't have that explanation.
And so she calls almost all of her artworks tablet with a number. What do you think of when you hear the word tablet? And mind you, there were no iPads or anything.
Right.
70s and 60s. So get that tablet out of your head.
A tablet was something you wrote on for permanence.
Yes, perfect. Exactly that.
10 Commandments.
Commandments, yes.
Yeah. So you're an ancient, writing on tablets was sort of an ancient practice.
Yeah.
So
A big chief tablet from the first grade.
It's like cuneiform.
Martha, what did you say about the tablets in school?
It was called a big chief tablet in the first grade, and it had guidelines.
Oh
Yes,
my gosh,
I use those too.
And we had fat pencils.
Yeah, and you would learn that the lower cases only hit the dotted line and the capitals would hit that top line.
Yes.
Right.
Yes.
And that, okay, so that, yeah, another perfect example of a tablet. She was really interested in this idea of tablets because it meant an ancient time. It meant a passing of time. It meant that tablets were written on and then things would wear away and then they'd be written on again or things would start to wear. So there was a story to the tablet. And with her tablets, there's the story of the building and the washing and the building and the washing, but none of these details have any sort of story to them. They're just made. There's no fabrication to it. Did I see that Gail's not here?
No, I'm here.
Oh, okay. My screen I see where you are. I normally have it, so I was thinking, oh no, did we lose Gail? All right, there you are. So anyway, so this was her mode of painting. Well, there was a Tamarind print studio in Los Angeles. Have any of you heard of this print studio before?
No.
Okay. Yeah, I hadn't either until I came to this museum. So in Los Angeles, there was June Wayne, an artist, had created this studio for artists to come and create works on paper. Oh, and let me back it up. So you're seeing these tablets. She was working the same time that Louise Nevelson was creating. And we looked at this artwork a couple of months ago called Lunar Landscape. Louise Nevelson was doing these same things using wood and creating different textures while using a monochromatic color. So this was something that was interesting in the late 50s through the 60s.
There you go.
That artists, female artists particularly, were really experimenting with. So this is pretty cool that we're seeing, now we're seeing art connections between artists and artists. So back to the Tamarind. So what's her name? Eleanor was creating, and there's this paper print studio that was in Los Angeles. And the point of this studio was to allow notable artists to create using lithography, not the medium that they were typically using, and like she was painting with acrylic and wood, and then allowing these artists to use paper to create lithographs, which at the time was viewed as a dying art. And the reason the Tamarind Institute was created was to revive this dying art in the United States. So you can think of most artists during that time, and a lot of artists we've seen were invited to have a typically 6-week apprenticeship, so to speak, in this studio. So this is the studio moved to University of New Mexico in Albuquerque in 1970. But from 1960 to 1970, that is where, in Los Angeles, it was on Tamarind Avenue. That's how it got its name. And then it moved to the University of New Mexico. So I could not find a picture of what that workshop looked like in LA, but this is the workshop now that's still alive and kicking in New Mexico. When Eleanor Mikus was creating, or was invited to join this studio for 6 weeks, it was in Los Angeles. It had not moved to New Mexico yet. So the artworks that we're viewing today are from that 6-week period where she was creating works on paper, which was not her traditional way to medium. She was usually, you know, like I said, wood and acrylic. So this, we have at the museum, we have the prints of all of the artists that were in that Tamarind Institute or studio from 1960 to 1970. And so this is one of these examples where we get to see what she created during that little stay there. Meditations. So here's an example of one. It's called, again, tablet, and the tablet litho is short for lithograph. And so I'm not sure if any of you are print makers or if you have been in your day, but a lithography is a type of work on paper where you're using a large stone that you've carved into, and you are putting different touches or oils on it and then running it through a press so you're able to create these images. It's a very complicated process, and it's kind of hard to explain. So I just really watered it down for you because there are nuances to it I don't even understand. So that's all you need to know. So she created these artworks trying to mimic what she'd been doing with the wood and paper, or wood and acrylic, but now doing it with paper, which is totally different. So what are some of the things and challenges you think she might have come up against?
For making a lithograph?
Yeah, trying to translate her very sculptural painting into a flat paper. What are some things that you might think she had to think about or come up against?
Making it dimensional?
Yeah, freedom.
Mm-hmm. So she ends up coming up with a solution to that, and I'll show you when we get to that artwork. But yes, that was the big thing. This is the only print she did while she was at Tamarind that had color. So this is, you know, really beautiful. You can see it on the wall, well, barely, but where the mouse is on the far left. It's pretty small comparatively to all of her other works. But yeah, so this was the only color print she did. She then really stuck to her traditional palette of black and white. And she loved white. And this is a beautiful quote from her about her feeling on the color white. She said, "Although it's frightening to some people, cold and empty, and reminds others of death, it is pure, moving, quiet, and peaceful. Simplifying all elements to their essentials to what is purely expressive." She felt she could really express the passing of time, this idea of the ebbing and flowing through white and through black. And seeing here, what do you mostly see on the wall?
Dark.
So, yeah, white and black, the dark. So we're gonna talk about, you can see this one that's jutting, that's sticking out from the wall. You're not looking right, you'd walk right into it when you're in the gallery. Yeah, sticking right out. This was kind of cool. This was the first time, at least since I've been here in 7.5 years, that we've ever displayed a work of art like that. There was work on the side that we can see, and there was an artwork on the other side of that. So you can, it was almost like the mirror image of it. So this was one side. This is the side we can see right here. And then on the other side was this. And what she did, it's the same exact print. She just flipped it 180.
Oh, okay.
So there was she never wrote much about her artwork. So there's no instruction on how she had envisioned this to be viewed. Do they go side by side? So we're seeing what that effect of flipping, 180 to one, the same image, or do they hang separately?
Huh.
So this is why our curator decided to hang it like this. So you knew that they were kind of a set, and you're kind of having the memory of you're seeing it on one side and you're walking and you're seeing it done on the other side, but it's not that one-to-one comparison. And who knows if that's how she wanted it to be, but that's how our team thought it might be best for visitors to enjoy.
Could you show both sides again, please?
Sure. So this is the side that we saw that is looking at us in that image.
Okay.
And then this is what's on the other side, and it's flipped 180. So you can see down here, that line,
Mm-hmm.
and then up here, that line. And I don't think she inked it the
Oh.
same. It feels a little more saturated on this side than the other side.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
feels, which side do you like more?
Black.
I
The other
like
one.
both of them.
The other one.
So I'm with you. Yetta, I like this one.
Yeah.
So
I
we've
think
got,
the one with the more distinct lines actually looks like one of those artworks using that fine wire.
Yeah. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
yeah.
You can see that it's paint, but that's what it reminds me of.
And it's actually not even paint. It's like a inky, it's called touche, but it's like an inky oil. It's not paint technically. But Gail, that's, you're hitting on something. She was able to create these painterly effects, even though it wasn't paint, which is really very impressive. For someone who's never worked with paper before, she figured it out pretty quickly. So we're starting to see some of that transferring. And then kind of like the first artwork we saw, we're seeing lines. And she was quoted in different articles. She's not one that wrote about her artwork. And so this is in an interview, her thought about just a simple line. Starting from something small, just a line, and painting something big. From a small line, a fold, you can make the rest of your life. So again, really thinking about that process that you start and then you keep building and building and building, and what does that building get you to? So we'll look at another. Okay, see, this is what I'm saying. Can you even see the artwork on the screen?
This is like a tiny dot.
It's
Oh, no, I
just
say it's very light.
Yes,
it's just gray. Yeah.
So this is on the wall, and part of the reason I'm sorry to go back and make you queasy. You can see why the dark wall and the black frames really help some of these artworks pop. This is the artwork right here, that white one we're just looking at. So get your binoculars out, really pull in close. So you can see here, what color?
Light gray.
White. It's photographing gray, but in real life, it's different shades of white.
Oh,
Is there
okay.
a yellow spot down there?
Yeah, there's a spot here, there's a spot here, and I'm gonna be honest with you, I don't know if it's the photograph or if that detail is that visible in the artwork on the wall.
On
Okay.
my screen, there's a yellow dot way down at the bottom here.
Somewhere down here.
Yeah, it's right, almost in the center. It's almost directly beneath the gray dot.
Right,
Just
okay, up here. I'm not seeing
Yeah,
it
right
on my
there.
screen.
Your arrow is right on top of it.
Oh,
So, something on your TV screen.
I was gonna say, that might be your screen. Paulette.
Okay. All right.
You know what? These pictures it's so hard to photograph these pictures that
Yep, it's not my
you
screen.
might be seeing details that my screen's not showing me, so it could be there.
Is in my eyes are there some light blue lines, very faint?
No, you're right.
Yeah.
It's white in real life. There's no other color but white. So it wouldn't be a yellow dot if you're seeing that coloration, Paulette. And then these are just different shades of white.
Oh, okay.
And then up here, I've got a blue dot that goes with the yellow dot. down there. Does anybody else have those dots, or this is
Yes.
just my screen?
I see the dots.
Yeah, there's
Yeah,
dots
right there.
Oh, another one just showed up, and there's one here, and there's one there.
But you can see if you can think about the lines that she was interested in drawing in that quote I read about the lines, you can start to see some of those lines
Mm-hmm.
appear in her work.
But you say, is that where different kind of whites meet, or what is? Because you
Yeah.
say it's not blue.
It looks blue. It's the photograph, and that's the tough part of showing the show. The photograph is making it look blue. In the actual exhibition, the paper itself is a little creamier than dead white, and so the touche, the oils that she's using are different shades of white.
Mm-hmm.
So you can see some of that contrast a little better, not much better in person, but you can see that better in person.
Well,
Mhm.
I think she and I have one thing in common in our painting. We don't worry about straight lines.
Oh,
So you
Yeah,
could
straight line.
compare the different colors of white to when you're going to pick out paint at the paint store, and they have all these different names for whites, and there's just the tiniest variation of linen white, dove white, there's
Eggshell.
eggshell. Eggshell is actually the texture of the paint, though, not the color.
Oh, okay, okay.
So, and I learned that from my son because he's done some like painting buildings.
Okay.
Eggshell, there's flat and eggshell and
Mm-hmm. Gloss.
gloss and
Matte.
satin and high gloss.
Oh,
Mhm.
I never knew that. That's something I learned today.
And
Well, go ahead, Gail.
flat paint shows fingerprints and marks more than
Mhm.
eggshell or the satins.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And in that similar vein, so you want to, if you have a textured wall, you might pick a particular kind of paint to work with that type of textured wall. She was using different papers. So with different papers, she would select different paints or different oils to complement whatever that ground was that she was working on. So it would create different effects and different feelings. And part of this whole project with working with the Tamarind workshop was for a number of reasons. Part of it was to revive an artwork, this lithography printing that was not an American mode of art typically. It was to teach artists how to collaborate. So, Mikus was the artist, but she didn't know how to print these necessarily. So she was working with printers who were either cutting their teeth and learning how to print, or very well established printers to help create and bring to life these visions she had for the work on paper. So I did not include the printers' names, but on the wall, you're able to see, it said, it's Mikus is the artist, but we credit every single one of the different printers who helped put these sheets on the stone, run it through, and pick the sheet off the stone. Because that really is a talent in and of itself. You don't want to smudge anything. You want to make sure the color's evenly applied or not applied, depending on how the artist is envisioning this. So this was part of the studio's goal, was to create relationships where the artist and the printer really had to work closely together to create the vision. And then it was allowing people to buy artwork that was more affordable. Work on paper is typically more affordable than works on canvas. So it was allowing artists from all different mediums, sculptors, painters, photographers, or not really photographers, but some were there, to create artwork in their style, but on paper that was then more affordable for people to have in their own lives. So that was part of the impetus for all of this as well. So here's another little part of the exhibition. Again, she left no instruction on how these were to be viewed. Some of them you really need to step back to see them. Some of them, if you're reading the label, you might be too close. Or if you're too far back, you can't see any of the detail, and then you do need to get up close. It just changes from one artwork to the next. Here's another example of that all black theme that she was really interested in. Artwork on the wall, so you can kind of see. So you can maybe, on this painting on or print on the right, you can see maybe some of the white lines.
Not really.
Not yet.
Well,
I mean, you really got
this
to look.
looks like waves in the paper or something.
So that was another thing that she started to do. You can see this one. You can't even see it, but you can kind of see it on the wall. She was wanting to create that uneven texture, and she talks about the line. Well, what she started doing was folding these papers in very tight, almost like, you know how like as a child you might make those paper fans, you roll and roll, you know, flip and flip and flip and flip. She started doing that, and then she would fold it in half and fold it in half. And that paper folding was really, she would get into kind of a meditative groove doing it. And that was part of this. She was really interested in studying Zen and Buddhism, and that kind of evolved from her interest in that. So she would fold paper, and she would just use her thumb. Sometimes she would use a bone to flatten it, but typically she was just running her fingers over the edge. Well, it's almost impossible to see that type of texturing unless you have that raking light, which is the fancy way of saying light coming from the side. So you can kind of highlight the ups, the peaks and valleys of that paper folding. So here, of course, you can't see that. But if you were to be in front of it, you could get to the side and kind of see the folds in the paper.
You know, her artwork seems to be very subtle. I mean,
very, very subtle.
I mean, it's a fine line between being artwork and being just things that don't look they're printed right.
Right. Yeah. I mean, and some of this too is experimental. I mean, she'd never done lithography before, so she was figuring out how to do it. So some of it might feel experimental, and that was good for her because that's how that was how she thought about the artwork. The art was the making it. It wasn't necessarily the final product. So she didn't call herself, like I said earlier, an abstract artist per se, even though everything she created really, there was no symbolism in anything she created. There was no narrative to anything she created. It was just straight up, I'm interested in how these materials interact together. I'm interested in what this process will be to create a final. And so she was really interested, like we had talked about earlier, the layers under the final, which, you know, the folding created that, the multiple prints or lines created that. That was the story to her. So here you can kind of see too, you can see the white or the creamish paper, those porous looking parts, that's the paper, and then the white on top was the oil. This top left corner might be the best spot to kind of see. So I tried to show you as best I could, but I have a little project for you guys to do at home if you are feeling inspired or just want to kind of get into the mental practice that Micah would do. Is I invite you to grab a piece of paper. You might have a piece of paper near you, or later today when you're sitting on the couch. And I just want you to start folding it as evenly and as straightly as you can. And, you know, the first one, it says, orient your paper vertically. That's just the easiest way to fold, but when you're finished, you can angle it any which way you think is the best to create your art. And then you can start running your fingers over it. Here, I say you can use maybe a credit card or a ruler, or if you have a bone tool. I don't know how I ended up with this in my office. And then just start folding.
Okay.
And your folds can be as wide as you want them to be. They can be as tiny as you want them to be. and you just kind of get into your groove.
And so the artwork would then be, after you get it all folded and you get it flattened again, that's what the artwork is?
Yeah, and you can, I mean, if you want to go back with maybe a black or white crayon to really channel kind of that lithography feel, you can do
Okay.
that. But yeah, and then you can, once you folded it one way, she would go back and she would fold it then the other way.
Oh.
So then it was kind of like a gridded, it felt gridded, or it could just feel zigzaggy, but she would fold it, and that was the process for it. And she would fold it maybe multiple times, open it back up, and then go back in and fold and fold and fold it.
So is this available anywhere on your the website for that you the
Yeah, I can send you the link in the chat box right now.
Okay, great.
This that first artwork I showed you of, I can go back to it. Let me go back. This this artwork right here, we just recently got that loan. This is coming from another gallery. This is the only piece in the exhibition that's not ours. So that's pretty cool to see. I went up there today to see it because I hadn't seen it yet, and it's really very cool. But you just kind of want to stare at it for a while because you're not really sure what you're looking at. Okay, here we go. Let me get the link, and I'll send it to y'all. All right, I'm going to stop share so I can chat it to you. But if you go online, you'll be able to see some of the artworks I showed you, some different ones I showed you. And I believe this exhibition is on view, I want to say through the end of the year, maybe into March, April. So it's up for a while.
Okay.
Not much chance of it fading.
No, but that's a really good point, Martha. This Tamarind collection, typically when we show something, it can stay up for 6 months because of the works on paper. It has to be in a very controlled, I mean, as it always is, but in a very controlled area with the lighting. So we have to, oh, very beautiful, Paulette. We have shades that go down in that gallery. So we don't have any sunlight that hits it when we're closed or anything like that. And then when it goes down for 6 months, these rest for typically 6 years. So they won't see the light of day then for another 6 years.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
Hey, Paulette, I missed what you held up. What were you showing?
Show them yeah, there you go.
Oh, there you go. Yeah, I like that.
Or inside out, or, this one's got text on it. And
It's like a tablet. There's a message in Paulette's tablet. All right, friends. Well, I hope your folding paper brings you some calm and kind of a crazy day, but it was really fun.
Trying to make a point.
Yeah. I'm going to crinkle up some paper and make art.
Yes. And then put it in a very dimly lit room and see what people think.
Yeah.
Yeah. Hey, there you go.
Bye.
And we're back next week.
Bye, Nancy. See you tomorrow.
Bye, Nancy. And Gail, you're usually quicker to know it than I am. What are we talking about next week?
Let's see. Next week is
I think I'd know by now to have that list up on hand.
It's okay. We like saying drum roll.
Yes.
A really big build up for something like
We like surprises. Surprises are so fun.
something happened to my list. And
here. I've got it right here. Okay, we're getting there. The theme is dun da 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 birds.
birds.
Hey.
So bring your best bird story because we're talking birds, people. Yeah, I know. Mark
I mean, here you go.
Excellent.
his talk next week.
He'll
All
love it.
right.
Yes.
Peggy,
There
thank
you go.
so
There's
much.
Woodstock.
Yeah.
Bye, Fred.
See you again.
See you
Hey,
next week.
Peggy.
Thank you, Peggy.
Bye.
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 All right. That was great.
That was excellent.
Instead of sock it to me, you can flock it to me. Sorry.
So do you see my screen?
Yes.
So tomorrow we will be playing Jeopardy,
Sounds dangerous.
and I will be coming to you from my office tomorrow. Because I have another meeting, and I'll be going from that meeting to the office in order to get online for our program.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Gail, are you having your coffee in 30 minutes?
I'm sorry?
Are you having the coffee today?
Yes, I just shared the link in the
Okay.
chat box
Okay.
to go for you to join me over in the Fifth Street Cafe.
Okay.
At the Fifth Street Cafe, we don't have any organized theme. We just talk about whatever anybody who wants to talk about is
Okay.
there.
Sounds good.
So all you have to do is click on that link, and you will immediately be in the other room. It takes me a few minutes longer to get there.
Okay.
So if you get there and I'm not there, don't leave.
Okay,
Okay.
I'm going to press chat now.
Okay, and we are singing again tomorrow, so we won't be there.
Okay.
Sing pretty.
We do.
That's a fun group. I actually visited that group in person.
Yeah, it is very fun. Yeah.
I'll copy it.
But y'all are still meeting by Zoom, right?
Oh, yes, yes.
Yeah.
Okay. John and Janine, I'm so glad you joined us today.
Yay.
Yes.
Good to see your icons.
Yes.
So those of you who can't join us at Fifth Street Cafe, have a wonderful afternoon, and we'll see you tomorrow. And if you're going to Fifth Street Cafe, I'll see you there in just a moment.
right,
Okay,
thank you.
thank you. Have a good day.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Good to see everybody.